Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Got a heater on deck for you tonight. Joining me once again, returning champion, my friend Steven from the Biblical Hitmen. Steven, how's it going?
What's up, brother? It's always a pleasure being here with you, man, and thanks for having me back on.
Of course. Like we were just saying, it's always fun. I never know where our shows are going to go, but I reminisce afterwards, and I'm like, that was cool. I'm glad it went to that. Whatever the topic is. I mean, I'm excited for this one, so I'm over here like, yeah, let's go, let's do this.
Let's go. I mean, the people love the conversations we get into, man. So it's let's just give them another one. Let's give them another banger. Let's do it.
Let's do that. I don't want to skip over your stuff if you want to tell everybody like who you are.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Steven. I'm a Christian fireman. I'm a paramedic. I do thing. This is my career outside of podcasting, but I'm the host of the Biblical Hitmen, and my other two co-hosts, they're temporarily out of service, if that's kind of like what you call it, but they're attending to other life things. But I've been continuing the show, and really the show stays afloat, man, because of having just fun guests, man, and having you on as well. I've had you on in the past, and it's paid off. Yeah, I think people love what we get into, so now it just makes it that much more exciting, that much better when we do come face to face. So, and we're gonna get into CERN tonight.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
Yeah, let's break it open.
One thing along those lines, like, it's fun to get some momentum going with somebody. It's good to work with them a little bit, build some chemistry, and get some momentum going, because you're tacking on chain links and watching the chain grow. And all the shows kind of link up too. That's the thing. If you're just catching Steven on my show just now for the first time, you're in for a good time, because you go back and listen to all these other shows that have led up to this, and kind of like you would like a movie. So I think that's one of the cool things about doing these kind of shows. We're building up to the next show, and the information, it's like the chain, it links up. And I think what we're doing, I saw this really interesting word this week. This is kind of nerdy, but there's this word I saw called periscoping. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's
If I say no, do I look stupid?
No, you might look sane. No, it's a really niche word where a snake is going along, going through the grass, and the snake rears its head up above the grass to see the broader landscape. And I've seen one do this. I saw one in my front yard do this. It was the creepiest
kind of
thing.
Terrifying,
because I had a good vantage point. I was on the porch. It was kind of terrifying, actually. And I see the snake coming out of the hedgerow, if you will. And all of a sudden it pops its head up and does this thing, and I'm like, what is happening? It was freaky. I was like, this thing gonna get up and walk next? What's happening? But no, that's that's periscoping. And that is what I think.
It's almost like a submarine when it sticks its little scope up top. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I think, and this is, just forgive me for this already. Forgive me for this analogy, but I think that's kind of what we're doing. I was like, periscoping is a good word for what podcasters do when they go down these deep dives, because we are steamrolling straight into this totalitarian science technocracy. If I can get that out, you know what I'm saying? Like all the stuff that's wrapped up in the CERN bundle. As a society, we're in AI and everything else that we'll probably touch on today. We're heading right into this. No guardrails, no safety rails, no safety precautions, nothing. Nobody has slowed this down. A couple of people, maybe Elon Musk on Joe Rogan once said, I went to Congress and tried to warn them, and that's all I've ever heard about. I'm not trying to paint him as a good or a bad guy here, but I don't hear much about people trying to slow us down. And regardless of that, we're not slowing down. So I think it's good to periscope, if you will, the situation. Yeah. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, man. And what is mankind trying to do, right? Mm-hmm. I always kind of ask this question to myself with anything that I tend to dive into. Getting into CERN, what is mankind trying to do with this? you can come up with a bunch of different speculations. There's so many different rabbit holes you could make about CERN. But coming from the people that are a big part of CERN, and there are physicists and there's quantum physicists that are involved in this entire project. What are they saying? And so there's deeper roots to what we're seeing being done at CERN uh, today. Like there's way deeper roots to it, and I think it's comes down to something along the lines where this is ancient Kabbalah, but they're actually working Kabbalah with just technology, which just that you know what I'm saying.
I
So
know exactly what you're saying. I'm getting excited over here already because I found some what I would say or would call Kabbalistic connections here. So I can't wait to get into that. And yes,
yeah,
I'm with you. There's a whole element to this. When you say that this goes deeper, has deep roots, or however you phrased it there, I think so. And I think that we're getting a they're putting on something for us that's very different than what they're actually doing. Like the technology that they're working with is very much based in mysticism. Enter the Kabbalah for sure, and a bunch of other things. Although they'll never tell you this because science isn't allowed to be spiritual, not in front of the public. And I mean, I got something I stumbled across just the other day, maybe to make this point. Tesla. Nikola Tesla was into the mysteries. It's been suggested that he designed a Tesla coil after the biblical word Nakash. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh, that clicks. Kind of like this connection that we're going to do with the Kabbalah. Like it clicked because I had seen a Heiser blog once breaking that down. And Heiser said the three meanings of the word Nakash is it's a serpent, it's copper, and it's divination. And knowing what I know now about the Bible, it it could be all three of those things at once and not contradict itself. So the Tesla coil, it looks like a serpent, it's made of copper, and it divines energy from the ether. So I definitely think Tesla was deriving some of his work from some of these more esoteric principles. And this one just happens to be from the Bible and the Kosh. So I think a lot of that kind of stuff is going on behind the scenes. This is maybe a more neutral example I just provided, but a lot of this is going on behind the scenes that's perhaps more nefarious.
yeah. I mean, they're trying to take a peek into the part of existence that we can't reach, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense. So CERN being this 27-kilometer long circle, basically underground, this tunnel that's running through accelerators and clashing at almost the speed of light. They're trying to take a peek at what's in that. They actually take 40 million pictures a second, trying to see what's in this stuff. So, like, even when you probably people can probably relate to this, but there was like this viral clip that went around. It was I don't know how long ago it was, but it was that you could see a demonic face in the image of when these protons are being slammed into each other.
Mhm.
I don't know. Again, alleged, right? Like I don't know if that's real, but the whole idea with CERN, I think, is a good place to start with. It is just the logo. I mean, looking at the logo of CERN, you've got what you could see as three sixes kind of ringed together.
Yes.
Um, it's blue, which I don't know if anyone cares, but the frequency for the color blue rests in between. I think it's like 625 and like 670 something. So people go, oh, well, it also represents the number 666 in its frequency. So who knows if that's why they put blue there. But CERN is trying to slam particles together to try and investigate life, like the creation of life. W- what quantum realm exists just outside of ours? Because if you think of what took place with the Big Bang, which is what they describe, this is nothing that came uh, that created something. So
Mhm.
there was this bang of whatever, but they really want to figure out what is on the outside of this space time reality of ours.
And I think that they're using old world, very much old world tech to do this. You know, we've heard about Saddam, Stargate, and other type of examples like that. And I think the more we get into this today, the more we might see some of those type of connections. And yeah, I mean, going back to something you said there about them, the entity's face showing up in the pictures or taking so many pictures per minute or second. Yeah, I mean that would be divining in a way. I think that they are tr- trying to do divination in a sense, and I think too that one of the things that they might be tapping into, and this is another kind of a Tesla connection here because he was looking into this old world grid that used to exist, and he was going out west to look at the medicine wheels because they were in areas of high electromagnetic activity. And he saw that these medicine wheels enhanced and sort of interfaced with the electromagnetic activity. So, and it's funny because if you look at the bighorn medicine wheel, that's said to predate the Crow Indian tribe. So this is maybe we're into the mound builder era. This is old world technology. So, and I'll pull all this together with this, like that grid that Tesla sort of found and acknowledged was probably a pre-flood network connected to the pyramids and possibly Atlantis. So when we get into some of these points on Earth where CERN is, and I've got stuff on that I could break that down later, but it seems like that may have been a pre-planned location and that
Absolutely.
even the Nazis knew about it before they put CERN there. So this may have been I know people talk about how the pyramids were all connected and stuff through an energy grid. Well, that may have actually been a thing, and that might be something they're bringing back because CERN is connected to all these other particle colliders all around the world. They process a lot of data through San Francisco, and that one's connected to all the particle colliders over here. In essentially, this grid is being built today that connects all of these particle colliders. So who knows what's going to happen with that? What's I guess the broader question here is what is CERN trying to revive?
Mhm. Well, it's funny you say revive, right? I mean, that I think you're right on the right track because there's like Shiva the Destroyer, the statue that's outside of CERN, right, in Geneva, Switzerland. It's representing that revival. It's representing rebirth. It's representing that apotheosis, reincarnation, uh, type belief system. And there's a ring that's around Shiva, right? It's Shiva's got, like incredible balance. First off, she's standing on like one leg, pointing her other leg somewhere else. Arms are going other everywhere, multiple arms. But there's this ring that's around her, and a lot of people in the conspiratory world they say that CERN is like this portal. So it kind of looks like Shiva is kind of like right there at a portal. Maybe the rebirthing process is a belief system is like a part of all that, but there's also a connection with the ancient god Cernunnos, I think it's called, right? So there could be a
Mhm.
connection with CERN and Cernunnos, because that god also does the same thing that Shiva does for Hindu beliefs.
Mhm.
So there's again, it's different labels.
There's 100% a connection. But go ahead. I didn't mean to
No,
cut you off.
yeah, yeah. I mean, no, that's I mean, looking at just the simple stuff that wraps around CERN, you should be able to go, yeah, okay, they're up to something that is not so publicly aware. That
Yeah.
makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. I'll at some point I'll show you what I'm talking about, but I found a connection between Cernunnos, and Shiva, and
Nice.
I'll have to break it down, but I'll show you once we get to that portion of the
Okay.
show, I guess. We'll get warmed up here a little bit more because I like where we're headed. You know,
Yeah.
CERN goes back to to the 40s is what I found.
Right.
It, I don't know why Tesla's on my brain right now, but I think I have one more thing to mention him. He died in 1943, and 1943 is when the first particle collider was made, and that was made by the Nazis,
Mhm.
made by a guy named Rolf Widerow. It was
I
a
think this
scientist.
is Nazi tech.
It is. It is, and it goes back to them, and that's what they're not telling the public. That's one of the bigger misconceptions here. They're not telling everybody the full details of their origins. So there's that. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
like that's pretty big. Like this, oh, this goes back to the Nazis. So already some people are getting, they're crossing their
Right.
arms. So, but I mean, I went back and looked. Like you guys can look up Rolf Widerow. It's the information's out there. He developed the first particle collider for the Nazis, and it's interesting because CERN on the websites and on Wikipedia says they started in 1954. But Rolf says he went to work for CERN in 1952. So, okay. So they didn't start in 1954. This guy says he worked with them since 52. There's some missing time here. And in fact, if
Right.
you go back and you look at where it was born in Paris. A bunch of these guys got together in Paris right after World War II, and they were trying to pick up where the Nazis left off in nuclear research.
Yeah.
That's
I
how
think
the
it was at the UNESCO conferences or something.
it's
I think
possible.
this is where I think it was in like 1949 or UNESCO. It's weird. So it's UNESCO. And this was where they formulated the European Council for Nuclear Research. And this is like what CERN is. CERN is like it's not like a private entity. It's publicly funded. It's got probably all kinds of connections with colleges where they get interns coming in and they teach them probably particle science or other physics or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and all this weird stuff, man, just comes. This very interesting era, the 1940s to like the 60s. That whole era there, there's so much in development, and I think it's all come from the Nazis. I think
Mhm.
it's because Nazis had, I don't know, I guess a general way to put it is that they had fallen angel technology. Either if it was given to them and then they did whatever they did with it, or they've recovered things as well. Who knows
Well,
exactly?
that's kinda how I stumbled on this information a couple years ago, is going through and looking at the true occult origins of the Nazis in the first place, and I looked into some of the scientists, and lo and behold, they had this guy, Rolf Widerow, who went to work for CERN right after the war and everything, so, yeah, they had a lot of stuff that we don't know where they got it from. The Nazis developed the first computer, okay? They developed the first TV, they rolled that out during the Olympics. And the weird thing about the computer,
You see?
because they were allowed to hold the Olympics there in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is before anybody knew about the camps and any of that other stuff. But yeah, I mean, and this is what people say. They say, "Oh, yeah, the Nazis. They developed the first computer, but they didn't do anything with it." Are you telling me that these guys developed a computer and didn't have any uses for it? I don't buy into that at all. So all this technology, in some way, shape, or form, can be drawn back to them. And I got this quote here. So I found this connection. I was like, oh man, nobody's ever going to believe me, or nobody's going to. I don't know. So, but there's this lady, Doctor Doctor Astrid Stuckelberger. She's she went to the University of Geneva, and she has come out and said some very interesting things about CERN. She knows some of the scientists there, and I found this quote from her the other day. She said that this is the Ahnenerbe Society. This is one of the occult societies that the Nazis had put together to go out specifically and search for these occult relics, you know, geomancy locations, these hot spots, this essentially
Right.
this grid that we talked about, the Atlantis grid. They sent
Right.
these guys out to find that type of thing. So she says the Honorary Society went and hijacked all the mysterious sacred places around the world, which they did. And she said that she thought CERN was one of these locations that the Nazis had located and used. So it's not just me. You have Dr. Stuckelberger here who came to the same conclusions, and I've never spoken with her. So that's pretty cool. I like that. And I'll I'll throw in something real quick here that I think lends some credence to this. One of the things I found with the Nazis to do with all this was they found a location and it's called Huska Castle. It's in the Czech Republic, I believe, if I remember that correctly. It was like a said to be a pit to hell originally. There's just a big opening in the earth where there was crazy lore around the area. Like farmers said even that things would fly out of there at night, like creatures, like Mothman type stuff.
Jeez.
So that's the lore. Then a bloodline guy comes in there. He's like a prince or king or something. He comes in there and puts a castle right on top of it and tells everybody it was to block the hole. But they think that he was doing witchcraft and stuff like that with it. But anyway, so the castle sat on the hole. The Nazis caught wind of it. They rolled up during the war and brought with them a gigantic occult library. And it's a crazy story. I'll just keep it short by saying that the Nazis left overnight. This is what the locals have said now since World War II. This is the legend is that the Nazis were here. They brought a huge library. It was all occult books. They left overnight and they left some dead Nazis behind. Like they got out of there real quick. So they left the library and everything. So the idea is that the Nazis went to this place because it's one of these sacred mystical places, brought all these occult books and were doing some sort of, you know, sorcery there essentially. And I think that that might be what happened, as crazy as it sounds, with CERN, because they may have already known about that location where they put CERN in the first place
Oh,
because
dude.
there was a temple there to Apollo, which, I don't know if we want to get into all that but right now, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna
for I
let you
mean,
go though.
no, yeah, for the people listening, like Apollo, this is Revelation, I believe, is it
9/11, I believe.
9, is it?
I think
Okay.
so, yeah. Let me
So
see.
this is yeah, so basically in Revelation it talks about this angel from the pit that is released. And this angel is called Apollo, Apollyon, which means destruction, according to basically the Greeks and everything like that. But there's another connection with that in Shiva. So you've got those two, which are destruction, destroyer, whatever you want to label it. They're the same gods. Um, yeah, and so this is the Christian conspiracy that's wrapped around this as well.
Mhm.
'Cause
And
people
yeah.
yeah, because people think that this is the bottomless pit, and they're trying to open it, which could just be like a Stargate portal or whatever, and then this thing comes through.
Yeah.
Um,
I have the details here somewhere. I'll find them in a second. But yeah, basically, whenever they were, I went back and looked at all this, and they did. Whenever they were, so what they say is that they stumbled across the ruins of this temple while they were building CERN, because CERN is 300 feet down at some places. There's a big tunnel down there that's like 300 feet below ground in some places. So the story they put out is that yeah, we did find this Roman temple to Apollo or Apollyon, and that they didn't know about it previously. I'm saying that the Nazis may have known about it previously, and that's why they went there in the first place. Because there were obviously the place was built using Nazi scientists. So here's the thing. So there was a pit there as well. That's the thing. Just like the Huska Castle story, the
okay.
Romans came in there and put a temple right on top of a bottomless pit.
Hmm.
It had the exact same lore. The Romans said this is a pit to the underworld. This is a connection to the other realm. And they came in there and thought it was sacred, I guess, or I don't know. Maybe they wanted to do sorcery too. They probably did. And they put the temple to Apollyon there. So, and it's the name of the town is I'll look it up in a minute. It's in French, I believe. So the name of the town seems to be named after Apollyon or Apollo, in my opinion. So people had to have known about this, like, but
Oh,
here's 9/11, Revelation 9/11. It says they have they have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in the Greek he is called Apollyon. It's
yeah.
it, there's a pit, and it's associated with Apollyon. We have a pit associated with Apollyon. I mean,
Uh,
you can't get much, more of a clean cut
right.
connection here.
Yeah. I think too that what they're manipulating occult wise is the dark matter. And
Mhm,
the occult is very, what I found interesting is, and some Gnostics pull this from Genesis, but when God says, let there be light, there was darkness made before that. So they believe that this darkness has the power to give light. And so they're actually manipulating dark matter. Because if you think about it from the scale that we have looking into the cosmos, we can only see, I think it's like 98 or 97% of what space is taken up. So that other space they fill in with what's called like dark matter. And so I think that is the ether. I think that is, and I could be wrong, it's just my opinion, but I think that that is what the alchemists were in search of this entire time, but they're in some sort of way, maybe CERN is trying to, at least if we're talking about Apollyon and the pit and everything, trying to manipulate it in the subphysical world. So the thing, the micro level of things. I don't even know how exactly this explosion is when these particles are slammed together, but I think they're creating dark matter and they want to manipulate that
mhm.
from a scientific, level.
Well, I guess one of the scientific conspiracies, if you will, to this is that this is a electric universe, that whole thing, like, this is all electromagnetism, and I believe that that's a thing. I think there's a lot of stuff here. That ether is electromagnetic that you're speaking of, whether we call it ether or plasma or whatever, it's some sort of a substance.
Right.
And I was reading something about some studies they did at CERN, and that they were breaking down matter, and they broke it down as small as they could. It was like still connected, still existing, but it was like sort of spooky, like spooky action at a distance stuff. Like it was still this essence, this living, sort of like a living essence. And I think that's like the Higgs boson and all that gets into this, that there's like, they call it, I guess, the God particle that holds everything together. I'm sure that somebody out there is saying,
Right.
Tim, you said it all wrong," but that's my sort of outlook on this after looking through all this stuff is that what we call God, they call
Universe.
particles. Yeah, particles that hold the universe together. But it goes, I mean, I think my bigger point here is that it goes back to electromagnetic stuff, and that I don't know if you've looked at Anthony Patch.
Oh yeah, I love
But
Anthony Patch, dude.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
said he said he found occult material that he believed the CERN scientists were aware of, and the material was talking about a golden age, getting back to the golden age, and like that there was a Saturn alignment back in the golden age. It was uh, Earth, Mars, Venus, Saturn in a line, and that there were electromagnetic doorways, and that Saturn was so close in those days that it sometimes even eclipsed part of the sun. But he thinks that they were trying to, or they are trying to reestablish those electromagnetic doorways from Saturn that existed during the golden age, and that in the gas outside of Saturn, there are entities that exist within that, and these doorways would allow these entities back into our realm, essentially. and he was looking at grimoires, and he's basically just said, "Yeah, the scientists." I know this is not me talking because I know this sounds pretty out there, but he's saying like, yeah, they are actively trying to reestablish a golden age doorway to Saturn to allow electromagnetic plasma entities through. That's kind of my take on some of his research. So, and he also said that the LHC in some of the pictures is shaped like the North Pole of Saturn, like the hexagram or hexagon sort of
Mhm.
thing. So it's more than just science, it seems.
Oh, yeah. Dude, and the Bible talks about it, like, Jacob's ladder, like, I think it's Genesis 28:12 through 17, but Jacob sees a ladder, a door, like a stairway reaching from heaven to earth, and there were angels ascending and descending
Hmm.
upon it. Um, and what's up with all these high places, right? Mountain positions to be specific, but there's something to do with the electromagnetics is kind of what I'm saying. Tower of Babel. Well,
Yes.
what capabilities are we talking about here? I
Yes.
think we're talking about ancient Kabbalah. It could have been something else back in those days, but it's what CERN's doing today. Again, if nothing has changed under the sun, then the same things are being done that were done in our history,
Hmm.
but it looks a little different. This one looks like a lot of science instruments behind it,
Right.
and this is all we're trying to manipulate it physically, right?
Hey,
But
I found this quote. I want to throw this in
yeah.
because I don't think maybe I didn't explain that the best a second ago. So here's what I found. Quantum mechanics discovered that when you break down matter to its smallest pieces, it lacks locality. So it's everywhere. It's
Mhm.
omnipresent. That's the word they use. It's not bound by the physical laws of reality. It's, I would say that it's paranormal in that way. The Kabbalah and the Kabbalistic tree and the Sephiroths sort of express that if we get real deep with this stuff and we
Oh, yes.
jump to these Kabbalah connections. So you have computers doing this now, making these connections too. So that's why I think you can take the word quantum and the word Kabbalah and put them together, and there's something going on there with what they're trying to do.
Oh, yeah. When I was trying to make parallels with that in Kabbalah, like, I found something that I think is what symbolizes that tree of life going up. It's all interconnected, number 1. There's 2 sides, there's multiple kinds of decisions that you can go about moving on the way up. Right? Which falls into a lot of Eastern mysticism, Kundalini beliefs. It's the same idea. It's just different cultures where there's this awakening or you open up this your own doorway, right? This third eye awakening of some sort. But that's what I also think that they're trying to do with this dark matter. Imagine if they could instead of making it a spiritual aspect, but making it a what do you call it? Um, like a physical symbiote to where now that it attaches to you and it can activate this spiritual experience at any moment.
Mm,
Um, you know,
mhm.
and also allowing things in. Like if you have well, to the main point, what I was trying to say is when you have this tree of life going up and everything's interconnected with quantum, specifically quantum computing, you have what's called quantum entanglement. So everything's already connected. I I think quantum computing and Kabbalah are so similar in this idea because there's also multiple decisions going up the tree. And so quantum computing, there's not really a set probability with it. It's just so um it, it's like a coin. If I just flip it on the table, heads or tails, it's gonna that's kind of like how bits work. But quantum computing is like if I flip it in the air, you don't know if it's heads or tails. It's going to be able to make any kind of decision. I mean, that's out there. Um,
That's kind of what Gordy Rose was saying that they were
and
doing.
that's where I was going to get at with this is Gordy Rose is talking about artificial intelligent beings that we won't be able to discern amongst us having this way of computing. like we compute every day. You know, we make decisions every day. Imagine it being something, an AI platform that now is able to quantum compute, and it's able to solve all the world's problems. You know, like this is what they're saying.
And make spiritual connections.
And that these things will be, I think he even says that they're entities, like they're
Mhm. Oh, he did. He
like
sure did.
it's a life source of some sort.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh, he all but sa I don't think he j I just don't think he phrased it this way, but he said they made contact in so many words or less. I've got the interview. I mean, I listened to
yeah,
the whole thing and he says, okay, we did a show and I brought this up and we put a clip out there of me and you talking about this. And in the clip, I'm explaining kind of what Gordy Rose had said, and I was like, "Yeah, he said that there was a chip that they use," and I said that word "chip," and people in the comments were saying, "Oh, you never used the word chip." I've listened to all his
really.
talks, he never used but he does, he
Oh,
says,
yeah, yeah,
like, you could just people just go back and watch if you know what I'm talking about, go back and fact check, but, like, he says they use a chip that pushes the information into another realm essentially, and they get an answer back, and there's computing involved and all this and that. But I think, like, what I really wanted to touch on was how you said that there's the spiritual connection that I think they're going to try to have AI make, and I have a feeling that one of the emerging philosophies of post-humanism will be that AI, they're gonna say, "Oh, it's got the power of 800 billion brains." But
seriously.
it's connected to the divine, and its connection to the divine will be much stronger than any lone human's connection. AI can be the liaison between humans and God.
Yeah.
They're going, "See, you can have both. You can have Christianity and, computers and AI and let it." No, so we already have a built-in connection to God. So that's kind of a lie because we know that our connection to God can grow faint if we don't nurture it. It grows faint in people. It it's only going to become more distant if people let AI become the connection between them and God. So I think that's a lie to kind of if you fell into that. You're only going to get more distant. You're only going to maybe that's and then I think that's what some people who rule this world want. They want us to have a very faint connection to God. It seems to be like what they like. So
Yeah.
these institutions might begin to see no difference between technology and mysticism for real. I think behind the scenes they already don't see the difference. But I think if they were to make that public, this is one of the things that they would use, one of the ploys they would use. Oh, it's 880 billion brains or whatever they're saying its computing power is right now. Let it make the connection.
Right. Sometimes I think of when I'm talking about these topics, I think of the show Stranger Things.
Mm,
So you know how there's like this world that is a part of their world. They just have to access it. It's the upside down world. It looks like their world, but it's just a completely different version. Um, which is Kabbalah, right? Like there's the tree of life, but then there's the clip off. You know, the clip off is that dark tree, that that other side of the coin of this entire belief cycle. Because it's duality in it as well. But that is the realm that I think that they want to access. If you could remember back in the day, like the Ghostbusters movies,
mhm,
right? So there's this portal on a high place that opens up and things just kind of start coming out of it, right?
right.
Um, which I go back to Revelation and it says that with Apollyon, with the angel of the bottomless pit, there's also an army there that is released as well. So what at least the people that are in charge of this stuff that really knows what's going on, it what do you think they're trying to do? But that would be bad for them, is what I'm saying. So what do you think why are they wanting to access this? It's probably because of the wickedness of mankind. I understand that, but
Yeah, power, new world order, just across the board. Palantir taking over money. Like if they make a Palantir stable coin and in doing so collapse all the central banks around the world. Now you've got you're one step closer to a one world currency. Um, one you're getting closer to a one world government at every day
Mhm.
now, and it's like they've brought in guys like Peter Brabeck, who's taken Klaus Schwab's place, and one of the things he's trying to do right now is they're trying to run the internet out of CERN. They want to run AI and the internet out of CERN. That's a project he's working on right now. So this is all going towards consolidation of power. And I think once you get to the interior of these organizations like CERN and the WEF and some of the others, I don't think they see, like I said before, I don't think they see a difference between technology and mysticism. And for them, it's an avenue for obtaining more power. And I got this quote here about this, and this is Ani, who I did a show with. He's studied a lot of stuff concerning the singularity, and I thought this was great because he was looking into sort of what do they want, right? What are these people actively seeking? And it's the cults of the singularity don't see a difference between mysticism and technology. In fact, they are using the Kabbalah as a blueprint for mind creation. AI is just a vessel capable of hosting the next emanation, which the Kabbalah is about emanationism. He went on to say that also transcendental philosophy plays a part in this. It's fusing AI, Kabbalah, and acceleration into one system. So if you're trying to master the ancient art of opening portals, which is a real thing. That's the high places. That's what we saw in the Ghostbusters film. That's what we see it's the word for in ancient Egyptian is Saba. It's on the old Egyptian rock walls where they've got the picture of a portal and it says Saba there. If you're trying to create something like that, a new Tower of Babel, if you will, um, wouldn't you use the Kabbalah? And I think that, yes, you would. I think that I really think, I keep coming back to this Kabbalistic connection because I think it's there. I think it's there. And I think that a lot of this stuff goes back to the Babylonian exile. A lot of occult manuscripts come out of that because you have the Jews in exile in Babylon. So you have Jewish occultism mixing with Babylonian occultism. And then a lot of those Jews end up down in Egypt and Alexandria and such. And Egyptian occultism gets mixed in there. This knowledge was crisscrossed. And so the Kabbalah is very much a thing here.
Yeah, and I think well, I don't think I've heard Gordy Rose talk about this, about being interconnected with everything.
Mm,
Imagine D-Wave chips and their capabilities 10 years from now. The only thing that's slowing them down is they can only make they can only produce so much power with it based off of what they have to cool it down pretty much. Like, when you're talking about these quantum chips, they have to be at temperatures that are incredibly low. And if anything, most of these they're actually starting to go to like black cube looking things
mm,
as for quantum computers. But the classic look of it is like it looks like an upside down chandelier, and all the way down at the bottom of the quantum computer, you have the chip, and everything else is transmitting the power, but it's also cooling just that little microchip, just that little tiny space in the room. Um, but the thing with quantum physics, which again, a lot of the scientists say that it is ancient Kabbalah, but the one connection that they have together is interconnectedness and this idea of entanglement where now if let's say we all chip ourselves in the future, which I advocate not to, but if that does happen, everyone's going to be interconnected. And I think this is like the hive mind concept that we've gone over with the show,
mhm.
that there's going to be some sort of source that we're connected into. But it's all interconnected. It's all entanglement. Um, I'm sure there's going to be privacy with all that, but
Yeah,
that's
it's like
just another thing
data.
of Kabbalah.
It's like data. That's the thing I wanted to end my last little spiel on was data. It's also it can also be sort of looked at like death from the tree of life.
Hmm.
It's the thing that connects everything. It's like data is if you looked at the words, data is
Mm.
an anagram for death.
Ah.
And it's what brings it all together. Like if you look at like death on the tree of life, it's a connection point for all the other sephiroths.
Hmm.
And it operates in a way, if you look at the material and the explanations of death, it there's no H on it, right? It's just DAAT. It's spelled just like data, just the last
Right.
words are placed differently. So there's no H, but for some reason they say it death. But what it does is it connects everything in a very mystical way. It's almost like it's not even a real tangible thing, just like data. It's ethereal. It's like an essence.
Right. Right.
So there's these crazy connections, and there's connections to Saturn. Like I've heard that there's a dark Saturn, a dark King Saturn connection to death, and that even I've even heard people go so far as to say that's why Darth Vader was named Darth Vader because it's named after Dath, Darth. And there's all
Mm.
these
Right.
crazy Saturn.
Well, he's
This
even
stuff
got
is so
Hebrew on
deep.
it. He's got Hebrew on his chest. Darth Vader does,
Yeah.
which is interesting. I think it's ancient Kabbalah as well.
Mhm.
It's all it really is. The the whole general concept of it is that Kabbalah thinks that there is a dematerialized world amongst ours, and so don't the quantum physicists. Um, Really, that's where they're getting all this computing data from, and it's probably from entities. Who knows the specifics of it? How this stuff actually works? How they, we're going to be getting information from things that we don't know what we're dealing with. And when it comes to a lot of these entities, like most of them are tricksters. So again, if people like Gordy Rose are going to move forward with wanting to pursue this new world of artificial intelligence living amongst us, like what is channeling through those AI vessels?
Mhm.
Uh, which we could be talking about. I don't know. Like, is this the return of the Nephilim? Is this the return of Nephilim spirits or demons, whatever you want to call it, now living amongst us? Um, but I ultimately think, like, there is Apollyon, right? Like, Apollyon is coming out of the pit. He is the leader of a lot of these things. So, I don't know if this also falls into, like, what Lucis Trust gets into to where that they wanna bring in this Maitreya so badly. Is Apollyon, like, this Maitreya figure? Like, how is this coming into play? Is the synthetic life forms going to be something that connects to the image of the beast? Um, I know we started out with CERN and we're here now, but it's all connected. It could all
Yeah,
be, used
it is.
in different situations.
And I've heard some scholars suggest that Apollyon is Shiva, that
Mhm.
it's the Greeks' version of the god Shiva. So maybe I should tell you about this Cernunnos connection real
Oh,
quick
yeah, yeah.
to maybe bring all this together because what we might have here is Revelation 9:11, which mentions Apollo, uh, a location where CERN sits that is a temple to Apollo, a statue out in front of CERN that might be connected to Apollo. And there's more. Just hold on, folks, because there's a lot more where that came from. There's a god called Pashupapti from the Indus Valley region. It's that. very mysterious region where all these people up and left. We don't know what really happened to that culture yet. They sort of there's a lot of mystery, but we know from their carvings and other things that they had this god there called Pashupapti. It was also called Proto Shiva. It was called that because it was one of the early inceptions of Shiva. It would go on to become known as Shiva in India, but it wasn't just taken uh, to India. It was taken up into Europe. So you've got right here, you've got Indus Valley. The god gets taken down to India, from what I can tell, and becomes Shiva. And it comes up into Turkey, where we see it on Thracian objects. And from there, it moves up into Europe because there's a little land bridge there between the Middle East and Europe. It's right there where Turkey is. So it goes up into northern Italy, and where we see Cernunnos start to appear in rock carvings in the Cameron Valley. Then if it jumps, it's like it takes a straight line through CERN, through Geneva, and goes straight to Paris
Mm.
because there's a Roman monument in Paris to Cernunnos. So you can really literally trace this thing out of the Indus Valley. Some people took it down to India, it seems, and where it's worshipped to Shiva. Some people take it up to Europe, and by the time it gets to Denmark, into Viking Denmark, they're calling it Cernunnos. But it's wild that before it gets there, though, in Italy, northern Italy, it's Cernunnos, and then you can literally draw a line from Cameron Valley, northern Italy, to Paris, and right in the middle the line intersects with what's it called? Loch Lomond, which is the lake that CERN is on. So what I'm saying here,
Oh,
this is like that, man. This
yeah.
this is a little G god that has a long unknown history, but we can kind of trace it, right? So what I'm saying here is, and I'll show you the picture right now, too, because I know some people are going to be like, Cernunnos is not Shiva. Some people worship Shiva. It's part of their religion, and they don't know this. So they're going to come after me. So I'm going to show this picture. Um, I'm saying it is. I think it is. Here you go. I'm going to pull it up right now. My broader point here is, here, I'll just show this real quick. See that?
Oh, yeah, that's the one I'm looking at right now.
Yeah. So what
So
I'm saying is, there's a statue in front of CERN, essentially of a god known as CERN. I don't think that's a coincidence.
right. And you know what's funny is it's got 2 horns. Like
Mhm,
Cernunnos, um, is known, also to have a ram head.
mhm,
Um, and there's some biblical connections with some of that. I know that there's some stuff out of Daniel that you can maybe tie into that. Um, but also, I'm even thinking of maybe false prophet, like Revelation 13. Uh, all it says is that this beast, rose from the earth, but uh, who knows if there's a connection with that and what CERN's doing. I don't know. I can only look at the illustration of it and maybe make a connection there. He's holding a serpent as well.
mhm.
He's got like a circular
Yeah,
uh
so some of
thing he's
the
holding.
right, some of the connections here are obviously it's in the same pose, sitting in the same pose, facing the same direction. They both have horns. They're both surrounded by animals. And this is the similarities here are uncanny because this Cernunnos relief was found. I think this is off the Gundestrup bowl or cauldron that was found in Denmark, all the way up in Denmark. And this Pashupapti is from Indus Valley. That's a long way away, long ways
Oh
away.
yeah.
So I think what happened here is it took a similar course that Odin did, because Odin also migrated up through Turkey into Germany and Scandinavia. It took a similar course to Cernunnos. And you know, that's an interesting one because if you go far back enough, Odin was a Visigoth or a Goth, and some scholars say that Goth means God or God King. So you can go back and look at one of the first known Odins and who was a king. He was like a god king. He was also known as Marduk. That's why I've said on here before. I think that Odin, Marduk's Jupiter, Zeus, or Saturn. That's probably one the same entity. So I think. Let me see. I got it. I'll pull it up here. The first. I know I'm off on a side tangent here, but the
I love
first
it.
Odin was called that we can trace back to was called Marduk Apla Idenia out of 1174 BC. And Idenia is Sumerian for Odin. So this king's name was Marduk Odin. And he apparently came out of Babylon.
Wow.
But also, they somehow came up through Turkey too. So I don't know Odin. I don't know how he went. He may have went from Babylon down into the Indus Valley, where they then went up into Europe through Turkey, something like that. But anyway, Odin migrates up through Turkey, like kind of like Pashupati did, and by the time it gets to, I think, northern Italy, they're calling it something different. So I think what you have here are three different names that represent three different time periods. Essentially, Shiva, Pashupati, Cernunnos. It's what we see with all the other little G gods. People migrate, they take the god with them, and it changes names depending on where it goes regionally, essentially. Just time and space, just kind of a thing. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see, I got maybe one more thing here. This is the Shiva Pashupati tablet, just to establish that connection with Shiva. As you can see, there it is, same
Oh,
pose,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
horns. Um, Seal from the ancient city of Mohenjo in the Indus Valley looks just like what's seen on that cauldron that I was talking about in Denmark. So there's some some scholarly basis for coming to these conclusions. Just want people to know that. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah,
So
check it out on YouTube if you're listening, because we're sharing pictures on YouTube.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
go.
So yeah, all in all, I think that this is the craziest one. Back to what I said earlier about CERN getting started in Paris right after World War II. Is it a coincidence that there's a monument to Cernunnos there in Paris, an old Roman art monument? Did this group of scientists, including Nazi scientists, pick the CERN location and decide to call it CERN after this entity? That's up in the air for questions, but just throwing
N
it out there.
No, again, man, it's like, it's something that the elites they do this purposely. Like, they pick certain positions, certain areas. They have remote viewers probably looking for these areas for them. They've got people of the occult working this kind of magic so that they can choose these places. Because who knows? Maybe there's energy of some sort, or the electromagnetic field in the area is different. Who knows exactly? But the ancients knew. The ancients, I think, were tactical enough to pick their locations specifically, and this is where they wanted to build certain things. I think they're smart people, if not maybe smarter than what we are today. And I think as they're going around doing what they're doing, I mean, you look at the level of some of these ziggurat formations, even just pyramid locations, and how they're set up. They can almost look like uh, diagrams of microchip sets or
Mm.
something. You know, so there's like an ancient mathematics behind this. And I think back then maybe they were using things of the heavens to help them do some of this stuff. Um, because it's all part of the ritual. I think you have to work to access the metaphysical realm. they just knew the work. We're people today are like building back, and we're at in present day wherever we are with science, but I think we're coming back full around. Maybe things were more simple back then when they were performing Kabbalah or sacrificial rituals or whatever it is that they're doing to receive power. Um, it's all involved with this space that we can't see, with things that occupy that space and that have been messing around with mankind since the beginning.
Yeah. Temple microcircuits. I'm gonna pull this up, I think. Yeah, I think I'm gonna pull this up. Did you just hear some sound come through?
No.
Okay, good. I'm getting sound on this thing, but actually, I'm not gonna pull this up. I'm just gonna read it for sake of keeping things rolling. But I meant to have this picture ready to go and I don't. But basically, here's the deal. It's this Angkor Cathedral. So they scanned it with LiDAR, and it's the Angkor Cathedral, and it turned out to be an almost exact copy of a microchip, as if the ancient builders knew about some of this stuff well before we did, this technology. And then there's another example with Shatsky Cathedral, where the floor mirrors the pattern of the Schumann resonator. And
Whoa.
people are like, oh, I wonder if the temple is like trying to capture some of these earth frequencies. So why are like the cathedrals being built like with the design of microchips? Is this some sort of a, again, going back to Tesla, is this some sort of a global grid that people before us knew about? Maybe people right now still do, and it's just not, it's just been kind of taken out of the gnosis of the public, if you will. But yeah,
Right.
those were two examples. There's a ton of these examples. I know people have probably seen these where you put the these cathedrals up against microchips, and it's the exact same pattern. It's just uncanny.
Yeah.
I'll
You
see if
know,
I can get a
I'm not
picture
sure
of it.
how they really made that kind of stuff. Uh, but maybe that was part of the craft back then, right? Um, with a selected group, obviously, that is building the architecture of these things.
I found some real deep stuff, man. Um, I'm just gonna give somebody. I'm gonna read some of this to you. I'm gonna give out a disclaimer real quick because people are gonna be like, why are you explaining the occult? Why are you, putting the, I don't know, giving the occult a podium or whatnot? And I think it's just so we can understand what's going on here. I'm not trying to promote the occult, you know. Um, there's a synthesis between history and spirituality that we need to understand. People do things based on good and bad spiritual theology. So I sometimes look at the dark stuff so I can know what's going on, so I can know what they're up to, so we can sort of answer some of these questions that we're having right now and asking on the show, right? But Jesus is my rock. So there's the disclaimer. I do go out and I do look at some of this stuff. Basically, I went out and I read some of Kenneth Grant to see if I could find some of the occult applications for Shiva. And I did. And this is what I found. The eye of Shiva, when this eye opens, it's like a chakra or a lotus bloom. The world of appearances is said to disappear, revealing the substream of reality upon which is reared the edifice of phenomenal illusion. This is kind of reminding me of the Matrix or the Stranger Things upside down world, or just CERN itself interacting with these other dimensions. He's saying that to the ancients, the eye of Shiva and doing chakra work was able to get you into this other realm. And while doing so, align your chakras with planetary chakras. That's what all this is about. And then there's sex magic involved. I'm not going to go into all that, right? But because
And
I mean, it's
that's
it's
the
dark.
that's the interconnectedness that
Yeah.
we were
Yes.
kind of talking about earlier.
Mhm.
And uh, that's what people would do to usher in the entity Papa Legba. They would do the same thing, right? So, and I think that that's why scientifically they want to do this so that they can have a connection to these entities. Um, I think at the end of the day, man wants to be God. That's just that's what that's our mission. That's the mission statement for a lot of these scientists.
Yeah.
They want to access this possibility.
Transhumanism. It's what man, when I got into this stuff, what I was starting to see, and it was almost over my head at some points. I'm not gonna lie. I was starting to see a connection between what Kenneth Grant was talking about and what Anthony Patch was talking about that he thinks CERN is doing. So, so like I said, like this is all to do with Kabbalistic chakra magic and sex magic. And Kenneth Grant literally used the word Nephilim in talking about this specific brand of magic.
Hmm.
He described it as the magic of the giants. And he went on to use the word Nephilim. So, and there's one more thing here that he was talking about, and this is why I think it kind of ties in. It's he goes, he's pulling from Chaldean magic. And he says the 10 Sephiroth represent the cosmic or planetary power zones, seats of power that convey influence from transplutonic regions, veiled by the triple veil of negative or nothingness, which is limitless or limitless light, the LVX of the Gnostics. He's talking about these power zones that exist in the universe. This is something that Crowley used too, the power zones here on Earth that he believed were connecting with power zones out there in the universe. And Grant goes on to say that the 10 planetary power zones are Pluto, Neptune, Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Sol, Mercury, and Luna. Each has its primal ray of magical influence. So, and then he goes on to say that there are entities assigned to each planet. That's where you get into talking to the spirits and all that. So, all this there's a bundle here with all this stuff being connected. And I think it's designed to connect chakra points on Earth, whether it's chakra points. This is what these people believe because this is what's in the
Oh yeah.
material here. Okay. Let me make sure people understand that they believe that there are chakra points here on Earth, power zones that connect to other places in the universe where these entities exist, whether it's the gas outside of Saturn or the goddesses on Venus or whatnot. They believe that you can contact these and you could do it with chakra points. It's not just the the chakra points of the body anymore. There's some sort of a connection between all of them, like heavenly, planetary, and bodily chakra points. This stuff gets really deep, right? And like, so basically, what I did was I realized, oh, this is kind of what Anthony Patch is describing here. I saw the connection, and I just didn't go any deeper. I got out of there once I saw
Yeah,
that. But I mean,
yeah.
this book in particular has a really dark vibe that I was finding the stuff in. So, but I wanted to know, and so I looked, and you know what? Just to explain something, when I said the goddesses on the planet Venus, he acknowledges that in this book. He says that the planetary spirit for Venus was Hathor, and that reminded me of Bledsoe, Chris Bledsoe,
Mm.
because they were saying that he was talking to Hathor.
So you see that there's a connection there.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
exactly.
wow. Okay.
Mhm. This gets into talking about Revelation. I think this kind of gets into possibly the Whore of Babylon. And because what I'm starting to find with that word whore, that can also mean that is in a lot of ancient contexts, that means priestess as well, which is interesting when you look at the book of Revelation. The priestess of Babylon. That's a new layer of information there. That's describing something that is able to do this kind of magic.
Mhm.
So I just thought that was an interesting thing to acknowledge.
Well, I think that they're working on, or maybe even have, technology that gives you that Kundalini awakening. I
Right.
think they're trying to, for humans, they're trying to, this is like fallen angel narrative, but I think that they're trying to give us the power and the ability to be gods. And in return, we build vessels for them that now they can take their body form and be gods. So it's like now we have an exchange with humanity. Who knows if this comes into what is a part of worshiping the beast? You take this piece of technology, you can reach this Kundalini awakening. You could be in the presence of the lady, the mother, whatever you want to call it,
Half.
and yeah, yeah, Hathor or what, right? There's, and then now you have this spiritual experience that either you can activate at any time you want, or there's still a ritual religion behind it that the whole world does. I mean, CERN. Why is CERN, when they're having their parades and uh, their celebration periods of building the thing? Why did they try to bring in all the religions together? Why did the Catholic priests like bless this demonic parade that took place, or whatever it is? I don't know if you call it a parade or not, but um, before CERN was being opened up to public and all that. But
Mhm.
Jamie Walden is the guy I had on my show, and he describes that they so okay, so he's ex-military and he's all ex-law enforcement, firefighter. He pretty much like did it all when it comes to that stuff. But there was this story of one of their guys in the military came across a piece of technology, and when he touched this piece of technology, it put him in the state of love, and he described it as a feminine, a motherly love. So, and he described it as like the presence of God. So they have, it's possible with that story that they have this technology to influence you emotionally and spiritually.
Mhm.
And I think that when it comes to the mark of the beast, I don't know, maybe you're connected to the mother, maybe
Right.
you're connected to the divine. Um, and who knows what the world is going to look like that. Maybe it could be as simple as like Matrix. Boop, you just go off, you're with the mother, you're in this alternate universe, you're digitized, you're whatever it is, you're not digitized, but your conscious is somewhere else, and you could do whatever you want. You
Yeah,
could
you said something there, it just kinda caught my ear where you said that this is like a ritual religion behind, and so, yeah, if that's if anything that, Anthony Patch said about CERN is correct, that's why I wanted to bring in what I did about the Babylonian captivity, because most of these episodes we do, Stephen, something goes back to Babylon every time.
Oh yeah.
And I just think it's interesting that we're talking not just about the Babylonian stuff this time, but we're talking about uh Kabbalistic stuff as well. And then in that one thing I just read, he talks about the Chaldeans as well. Well, this is still the same area of the world where all this is coming out of. So I think there's a hodgepodge of different various magical techniques that have been put in the bag if what Patch is talking about is correct, if they're using Kabbalistic magic at CERN in the higher, the higher echelons of that organization.
Hmm.
Um, and I think another thing, just I mean, we're about an hour and a half in, so I might as well just get really weird and say this. But he said that like he was theorizing and talking about some of these organizations have figured out how to make clones. And I don't know that they were human. I think there might be more on the robotic side, but they're meant to
Mm,
look like humans, like iRobot, and that there's a possibility that if they open up the old golden age electromagnetic doorways to Saturn and allow those Saturnian plasma beings in, that they would try to get those into the clones to animate the clones, and therefore you have this iRobot Saturnian clone
yeah,
brain.
man. Yeah. Well, that's what Rose is talking about. He's talking about these synthetics that are going to be made. And look at all the movies, man. The movie Alien or Prometheus. There's a synthetic that you could not be able to distinguish different from you if you were in the same room. Yeah. So and then these things are going to have quantum computing capabilities. They're going to solve everything. They're going to do everything. It's gonna excel, and now a lot of people will go, "This episode is BS. No one knows quantum computing." You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
It's like, yeah, I understand that, man.
Oh, no, they will. I can feel it coming already. You're right.
A lot of some of the scientists are like, if you think you know quantum computing, you don't know quantum computing. It's
Yeah.
they say this is never gonna happen. They say that this isn't even 10 years out. But then you've got guys, that are really passionate and have an agenda. I think that could just be it could be harmless to them, but they're out
I
there
think I should
pursuing this
play.
agenda.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no, do it. I think you should play it,
I think I
whatever
should
it is.
play. No, I mean, I'm not right this second. I don't have it
Oh,
ready to go, but I think, like, just I should do something different at the end of this episode and just play the Gordy Rose TED Talk.
yes. Yeah,
He
yeah.
says it so we don't have to.
Right, right.
The quantum computers have made contact essentially. Like I said, he doesn't I don't think he uses that word contact, but they've made some sort of a connection with these entities that are Lovecraftian entities is what
Right.
he says. Like they have this they don't think like we do. They don't have the makeup that we do, and uh maybe they have a different code of ethics or a lack thereof, and that they have cosmic indifference towards us, like what Lovecraft described in his novels that these entities had.
So a lot of variance with these entities,
Mhm.
you know. Um, but that's not stopping how they're pursuing this, which is hilarious. Them questioning what is about to go down is not being questioned hard enough. Like,
Mm.
I don't think they are. I don't think they're aware of, and maybe Elon did say it. This is demons or something, or this
He
is going to
did.
release demons, and I think he did know what he was saying, and I think they know what they're doing. Um, I think they're magicians, man. I
Yeah.
think they're practicers of this dark arts at such a level. Uh, it's not like the initiate stuff. We're talking about
Yeah.
things that were most likely done thousands and thousands of years ago, and the tradition has been kept through. And now this is how they're working on it
Mhm.
today. I think there's a facade with a lot of this stuff. Like, okay, yeah, Geneva, Switzerland, CERN, particle collider. Okay, yeah, but I think there's a facade to a lot of the things that are actually out there in the world. A lot of things are public, right? I mean, we've got Google Earth nowadays. We could just go and find anything. But I think there's technology out there. Who knows what these other corporations are working on, and if there are synthetics that they're just keeping these entities in these robots in these vessels or in these compartments, testing them. But disclosure could also roll out with you know or maybe these things were made for some sort of disclosure. When disclosure does happen now with CERN and with everything else, things just come into play to the fourth industrial revolution. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I think it is ancient magic. I mean, I think the more I've looked into this stuff, that's what it always seems to go back to. There's a small group of people that always they seem to be at the top of governments and institutions, and these institutions like CERN that seem to be like, uh, well, we'll just call them institutions. Governments and institutions everywhere seem to have this little hierarchy at the top that has connections to ancient magic and bloodlines. And that's just, I'm sorry if you think that's crazy people listening, but that just seems to be what it is. I'm coming to terms with it too. I've had to come to terms with it because I thought it was wacky at first too. So I do think that, like you said, they do have this form of ancient magic that they know about and are utilizing. And pretty much don't tell us what it is, and the facade is we call it science. It's just good old Darwinian cardboard science. Don't worry, nothing to see here, nothing spiritual or mystical happening here. It's a different story behind the scenes, and down to these locations. That's the thing. Like earlier, I don't know if I don't know if my thought came out properly through my mouth. Like the whole CERN starting in Paris thing, and just the fact that there's an old Roman monument to Cernunnos there.
Mhm.
I don't know that that had anything to do with why they started CERN, but I think it has. I don't know. I feel like these locations have this magic to them already. It's like London. London, the city, formed around a temple to Mithras, and it was a Roman temple at that. And I gotta think that there was some sort of a Roman temples to Cernunnos right there. That's why the old monument's there. And it's like, I don't think it's a coincidence that this group of people in Paris who may have known about the old altar to Cernunnos, if you will, knew also about the old Apollo, the Roman temple to Apollo, and knew that Cernunnos was also worshipped in that area as one of the regional gods. It's almost like they picked the locations because they have something to do with this ancient magic and some of the entities named in the ancient magic. And you know, because you've got CERN on the temple to Apollo, you've got the UN has a base on a temple at Mount Hermon. You're not allowed to go view the ruins of this temple. It's shut off. It's a UN base. This is our Genesis 6 event, essentially. Where, you
Yeah.
know, the Book of Enoch as well. Watchers come down to Earth there. There was a temple there. That's the UN base now. London is on this old temple. The Nazis had Husa Castle and everything else. Jesus did the transfiguration on Mount Hermon as well, on the old temple site, essentially. Like he was, I think he was doing that to claim victory over the whole of the occult, all of this stuff. I think that's
Mhm.
why that location will, I think it had significance in that regard. And I mean, I think CERN was probably, you know, this geomancy portal site where priests or warlocks or sorcerers, whatever you want to call them, could make portals between realms. So I think that the magic, what comes with knowing the ancient magic, is a degree of knowledge of where the ancient sites were located. And they probably have some sort of I would imagine that there's some sort of a map of where that old grid used to be, if that existed. You know, the grid that connected the pyramids together and Atlantis and all that lore.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
you know, but they put these, one thing I have found is that they do put the particle accelerators on ancient sites. Of course, we talked about CERN, Brookhaven in New York. That's on Long Island, where Montauk Tip is, where Stranger Things is based out of. Uh, that's an ancient site. There used to be an old obelisk out there, and there's a lot of giant lore and all that with that place. So that was, and Brookhaven Labs, I've heard it suggested was what the inspiration for Hawking's lab in Stranger Things. So anyway, that's a ancient
Wow.
site. That's a particle collider there today. You have Oak Ridge in Tennessee. I've talked about this on the show before. It's powered by Norris Dam. Norris Dam has an ancient site beneath it. I've laid all that out in other episodes. You've got Nashville. We've got a particle collider in Nashville at Vanderbilt. Nashville is on an ancient site. This is an old city here. I've got the director of the Smithsonian himself talking about it, how this city is built on ancient ruins. UCLA, Berkeley, San Francisco. We see San Francisco is older than they're telling us. It's on old maps from the 1500s. So there's some ancient sites there. And that one in particular is this data hub, this DAF hub. It's, it's like a it's like the Kabbalistic DAF that connects all the other particle colliders and all the data, and it pools the knowledge there.
Wow.
So it's a hub for CERN, but it connects them all. So I'm sure that there are Tower of Babel connections here. I mean, the Akkadian word for Babel is Babalu. That's portal or gateway of the gods, is what that's the Sabe of the Egyptians. That's a portal.
Oh, dude, I mean, Babel means gateway to the gods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's what is it? Whatever they put their minds to do, they will be able to do. It's
yeah, that anything that they would imagine to do,
mm,
which is interesting because I think only a person can imagine to a certain extent until they're given an idea, and now they can imagine more. And that's why I think just I mean, technically, when CERN got developed in the 40s and stuff, well, I think the Nazis, we made that claim and we backed it up that, they're most likely behind CERN, but they were making connections to these other worlds, like Gordy Rose says, they exploited it in some sort of way. This is a quote from Gordy Rose, and kind of listen to this. And he says, "These machines, we can exploit those other worlds. The shadows of these parallel worlds overlap with ours. If we're not smart enough, we can dive into them and grab their resources and pull them back into ours." So I think if when this becomes possible, I don't know, it could be possible right now, who knows? But we're gonna see an acceleration in technology because now we're gonna start getting information from these other worlds, and we're gonna start to develop these things and put it into manufacturing and development and all this kind of stuff. We're gonna have uh, technology that will grow so fast overnight. It, when this does become possible, but he said this at Idea City Talk in 2013. There's a bunch of them up here, man. There's so many. They're like kind of cryptic in some sort of way. Um, but this is his prediction, and he's also said here. This is at circa 2013. This is at the same conference he said this other one at, but it says, if you have the opportunity to stand next to one of these machines, it feels like an altar to an alien god.
right.
um, What do you
It,
take from that?
the
Which
monoliths.
which what that makes me feel like is like if I was standing next to the Moloch statue at Bohemian Grove. Like I would just feel like, "Oh man, this thing's watching me," or something, or I would feel like this strange presence that was oppressing me. Well, he's saying you're gonna have that same kinda that same feeling
Well,
next
yeah,
to one of these machines.
it's like the Well, I always laugh about where people have changed the name of the Super Bowl to Superb Owl, but I but I get it because what it makes me think about is the Superb Owl of
Yeah.
Bohemian Grove, where all these guys in robes get together and they have a giant ritual with a lot of people around to witness it. In that
Mhm.
regard, I get that connection to the Super Bowl, like so I get all this stuff, but Jordy Rose is like he also said that he's like our computers, they stand like a black obelisk. Or
Yes,
what
the
did he say
D-Wave
exactly?
ones, the D-Wave quantum
Monolith.
computers.
He said a
Yes.
black monolith, which is just like what you see in 2001 Space Odyssey. Those weird
Mhm.
futuristic black monoliths there. And I think he's being very um he's using these words for a reason. He's using these analogies for a reason. He's being very particular about what he says. He's
Well, what I've
intentional about what
noticed
he's saying.
about people like that in the positions that he's in, they thrive off of sci-fi.
Right.
That's their That's their theme, man. Like um that's their culture is sci-fi. So when they're working on these things and they're getting to these certain advancements, they're getting there because of what they're imagining to try to do. Um which is maybe more Babylon stuff.
It
I don't know.
is. It is. I think that that whole Tower of Babel thing, that was a type of technology, but I think beyond that, I think it was a matrix of the hive mind.
Yes. Yes. Well, when
It
you're thinking of iRobot, like you mentioned earlier, these robots are connected to a mother hub. Yeah,
Right.
there's one ultimate AI source that's connecting itself through these other robots, can control them, do whatever, or they just tell them to follow whatever programs they have in them. Um, but I think that's the concept. Yeah, like that's that hive mind generality where that yeah, it's all coming from one source.
Yeah, and it's the merging of the old tech with the new tech. Is that why we went to war with Iraq? To go in there and get control of this whatever this Stargate is that Saddam had himself on. You know, why did our
Mm,
troops go in there and go straight to the museums first? And they said that museum was supposed to be built on one of these ancient sites, that they had a some sort of portal location there. But the old tech with the new tech, it's like CERN will be part of the neural link and the hive mind in that way. It's like the new Tower of Babel with AI though this time. One world
I've-
government, one
right.
world science, religion, everything comes down to the singularity. And that whole singularity, we have seen that played out with the sci-fi. It's the technocrats. It's like whenever they say it's a brave new world that we're heading into. That's from 1933 from a book called A Brave New World written by Aldous Huxley, who was one of the first he was a part of the technocratic movement that comes out of Colombia in the 1930s, along with Elon Musk's dad up in Canada. He was Canada's spokesperson for the technocracy. Um, and then what you see there in all the sci-fi novels is they roll out the technocracy that would give way to the singularity. It's not just it's in Aldous Huxley's book. Another big proponent would be the World's guy, Orson Welles, major technocrat. He was a socialist too. So you see these science views behind it. It's like it's sci-fi, but some of the sci is like Marxist Darwinist, which is it's a strange combination. But
Hmm.
H.G. Wells was an open socialist. He read a lot of Darwin and a lot of Marx, especially Marx. And so in his books, he literally wrote a book called New World Order. That's the one nobody talks about. But these guys, they in the 20s and 30s, they introduced this idea in the sci-fi technocracy. It goes away for about 3 decades, sort of. It lays low. We'll just say it kind of lays dormant and it pops back up in the 70s. And now here we are. A lot of the stuff from these sci-fi novels and movies, that's just the world we're in. It's just the world we're in. But it was to your point, it was introduced
Hmm.
through science fiction. All this stuff was.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, you can go back through and just look at sci-fi and see where all this sort of sprung out from.
And like that sci-fi realm of it is one thing, but then the spiritual stuff is where I think you touched on earlier with Mystery Babylon and is that going to be the mother? Like, is that of the hive mind? Um, uh, but with the spiritual stuff going on, I feel with the idea of like dark matter, what we were getting into, that there's something to do with singularity, this dark matter, Kundalini awakening, uh, and this experience. When you look at like the Black Madonna, for example, which is like this Mother Mary looking figure holding a baby, but she's black. Um, the blackness is that energy source that fully kind of takes over your body. This is what brings into some of the different colored gods as well, like with Hinduism. But when you look at the movie Lucy, right? The movie with Scarlett Johansson, she in the beginning of the movie is like this drug mule or whatever, and they put this chemical inside of her to transport it, but it ends up breaking and getting into her blood system, but or in her bloodstream and stuff, and it changes her, and it's changing her throughout the course of the movie in increments of percent. It'll just say like she's 20% or 40%. And she's allowing to have full access to her brain, which is to me is Kundalini awakening. Um, but then there's this point with that experience that she reaches singularity. And when she becomes singularity, she becomes omniscient. But as she's going through this process in the movie, her skin is actually being covered with this black goo, which you could take that from whatever you want about the Black Madonna. But
Oh.
it's this same energy source that's being represented here. This could be also what talks about with the black goo in celebrity music films and movies. There's this black goo with
Right.
stuff. It's almost like in the movie Venom, which they popularized this with the comic books and stuff. But this black symbiote gets onto you, and it totally covers and makes you like a god. It makes you like a Nephilim. It makes it makes you from the
Yeah.
perspective of that movie. My point is that there's something to do with the darkness. The Bible talks a lot about the darkness, covers it so much that you actually start to see that darkness could be an actual thing. It could be an actual state of matter, even. And that's what scientists are saying today, that this is an actual state of matter. We're actually trying to manipulate it because it holds the powers of creation, for example, because they think the darkness helped
Mhm.
create the light, or it was darkness that was created first and then the light. So they really want to pursue this darkness, and there's this darkness, and the black goo thing, man, has me sold a little bit because I know I've talked with you in the past about quantum graphene and that kind of stuff. It's kind of black as well in its configuration and everything. Carbon, whatever you want.
The Nazis found a sort of black goo too, and I won't go
Did
into the
they?
whole story. Yeah, well,
Oh my
they
goodness.
it's, it's a whole thing to do with the Falkland Wars that happened in the '80s and the British, but basically there's an island. So, okay, so there's 2, like we had mentioned the Ahnenerbe Society earlier. That was a German occult society. They also had another one called the Thule Society. Well, in the
Mhm,
'80s, during the Falkland Wars, the British sent down their battleships, their destroyers, and one of them diverted in the middle of that conflict to an island called Thule Island that's part of the Falklands, where these islands are Argentine islands. They belong to the Argentina government. And in the '80s, a lot of the scientists who were on Thule Island working for the Argentinian government were Nazi scientists. And the whole thing about that is that they had found some sort of a substance on the island in caves that could that had like supernatural, I don't know, components to it, and that it was a black goo. And I don't think it's super unlike She Legit. Only, I take She Legit. I actually recommend She Legit. It's like a black goo that's vitamins though. You get it from the top of the
right, right.
Himalayas. This is some other type of black goo that they found in these rocky caverns. So, and they said that, the Nazis found it first and had some plans with it, and the British had to intervene and all this and that. There's a whole thing to the black goo. I'm just that's that's all I'm saying. But I like the what's her name, Scarlett Johansson thing. The idea that she's becoming the Black Madonna.
Mhm.
I like that because I get where you're going with that, and I get where you're going with the black goo and the Venom thing, where in Spider-Man, he's overtaken by the black goo and he becomes this other creature. He's like a vessel for this other thing to come through. And part of that thing coming through is the manifestation of this goo, this stuff. And it makes me think of the Black Madonna in there's a Black Madonna in the Pyrenees Mountains area that is the local people know about, and you can go see this thing. And it's got all this crazy lore, but right alongside the Black Madonna in that area are all these portal locations in the Pyrenees
Really?
Mountains. Yeah, it's one of these places that has had lore for millennia about natural portals being nearby. And it's kept kinda quiet. I know Howard Hughes went out there and took some scientists and CIA and Nazi scientists at that with him, and they were studying these portals in the Pyrenees Mountains near, Mount Contigu. So, that's what I think about with the Black Madonna from what you know what I mean? Like, there's all this
Right.
stuff in this one little area, and they seem to be associated, like, the portals seem to be associated with the Black Madonna in some type of way to the ancients, and it just makes me think about, like, going back to CERN, about them the possibility of them using these portals, and I gotta throw this in before we close this thing out. I gotta throw this in. This is, the lady I talked about earlier, Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger. This is a quote from her about these type of things. She says, "They're doing strange experiments at CERN. Beings are coming in and out of portals. Physicists at CERN have told me this. I met them at a dinner. There were two of them, and both said they had at the bottom of CERN this portal, this doorway where they were dealing with the subatomic dimensions. They believe there are 17 different dimensions of reality, and they're playing with that, using that. And they had a being who came through that does not resemble a human. Speaking of the Lovecraftian entities, this thing did not resemble a human. On a separate occasion, a being came through and left something, a piece of fabric or something resembling a scarf. And this is Dr. Stuckelberger. She's a scientist. She's a PhD from Switzerland. She went to the University of Geneva. She's in the area. She knows the scientists. She's in that scientific world. And I've listened to many of her interviews, and that sounds crazy, but most of the things she says does not sound crazy. I think this is just something she just experienced, heard these scientists talking about this, and is just letting people know, hey, this is what I've been told.
Yeah. What department do you think that like functions in?
It's a good question, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything has clearance, right? Like
It's
there's a
going to be
clearance
high
level to
clearance,
everything. I mean, come on. They're not going to just be able to let
bro.
these
Yes.
people into this Stargate room
Right.
where
Right. That's
they're
why it's in the basement. See, that's
right.
why
Well,
you
that's what
could,
I mentioned
yeah.
earlier about these facaded things that are to steer us slightly. They're a part of the whole project. It's just there are little um compartmentalized operations happening behind the scene, running these kinds of experiments. It's like having the CIA and then having uh, all your MK Ultra. You got all your little operations going within it. CERN, I think, is a whole thing, but I think there's other operations happening, um, trying to pursue the mysteries of the universe.
Mhm. It's, this is something I blanked on earlier. The this is because this is really hard to find on Google, by the way, but the information on the temple to Apollyon
Hmm.
is so hard to find on the internet, probably for good reason. But if anybody wants to look it up, it's called Apollyon at Puyi. So it's Puyi is the name of the little town there next to CERN, and it's spelled Pouilly. Just just in case anybody wants to go out there and validate some of this stuff. And it took me a long time to figure that out.
Oh yeah, I see it right
Puyi.
here, dude.
Yeah. Bottomless pit. To the Romans, it represents the other side, the underworld. Yeah, the place, it's just
I
who
like it.
knows?
I like that. I haven't never heard of this. I'm glad you threw
Mhm.
this in, man. This is clutch. There's something to this. There's something to all of this. There's something to what you were talking about with the locations. Um, I think there's an element to it. I think they go to these places because there's some sort of element they're using
Mhm.
from it with what practices they want to do. Um, why does the Vatican have their observatory on top of Mount Graham, which is known to having stories of star people connection and all this other
Mhm.
stuff. So they're exploiting these places in this realm that we're in to
Another
help them.
thing that I saw is that there's video still on YouTube of this occult ritual
Mhm.
that was said to take place at CERN, and something happened because it's on video. What you see is somebody's in it's a courtyard there where the statue of Shiva is, and I think that people live on site there. Some of the CERN scientists actually live there, so they've got, like, an apartment building
Oh,
type
yeah.
of a thing. So somebody's in their apartment building or office building late at night. They said they heard these noises, so they looked out the window and they see these people in hoods come up to approach the Shiva statue. And this is all on tape. And this girl comes out, she's derobed or disrobed, however you say that, and she lays down in front of Shiva, and a guy pulls out a knife and allegedly, or I don't know what happened, stabs her, pretends to. Here's the
Wow.
weird part though, because
Wow.
I've watched this footage. It is strange because the knife, the light gleams off the blade if you watch the footage closely.
Oh, wow.
Because there's it's a courtyard. It's lit up with
Right.
little outside lights, right? The light gleams off of the blade, and it's like, was that a real knife?
Yeah, like, did I just see that?
Is that a real knife?
Was
Because
that
you know, I don't
is this
know,
what's
man.
happening at CERN?
I'll tell you what, my any of the girls that I've dated, if I was to talk them into doing a mock ritual, no girl's gonna let me use a real knife, even
No.
though they know I'm not really gonna stab them. They're gonna the girl is going to demand that you use a plastic knife, sir, for this.
Yeah, yeah. Just go to the Halloween store, man. Just go get you
Right,
one of those little ones that kinda go into the handle.
right.
You know? Yeah, dude, they're doing what is that? And even if it was some sort of prank joke or whatever gag it was, um, I think there was something real to it. I'm just saying there's been some speculation on the internet of, uh, uh, of what were they really doing. But, I mean, hey, I think there are real things like that happen, and I even think, like, that I mean, it obviously happened, it was on film.
Mhm.
But I think they're actually trying to get something out of it. I don't know if the ritual is 100% right. I don't know if they're just looking through their little witchcraft books and
Mhm.
going about it. Um, but there's, like, levels to doing rituals, just from some of the things that I've read, and again, like, I'm not an occultist, but there's certain layers of things that you've gotta do, um, to make sure it's done properly. Some people speculate that even some occultists can get injured or killed in certain rituals.
Right.
Um, I mean, maybe Jack Parsons was one of those people. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. That
Um
was I firmly believe that he died doing a ritual. The neighbor heard the explosion and came running. 'Cause he lived right next to somebody, Parsons did, and he had this little barn thing where he did all this stuff, and he was back in this
Mhm.
barn, and that explosion happened, the neighbor was yelling at him, she immediately runs over and finds him, and they found it came out later that one of the things that she noticed, like, by just walking up, seeing him laying there and just scanning the area, there was a notebook he had right beside him with some stuff scribbled on it, and I think he wrote something like, "Must validate Babylon working." Something just perfectly yeah,
Really?
something just so ridiculously obvious, you know what I mean? So he
Wow.
was this was in 1952 when he died, I believe, 52 or 53. And of course, the first Babylon working was, or the one we know about, was in 1946, and it ended in 1947. So he was going back. Whatever he was doing that day he died had something to do with a magical working, for sure.
Oh, wow. I was listening to this guy on Joe Rogan talk before, and he's like, he catches snakes for a living. Like, this is his career, and he's a professional at it. And he does a lot of work in Florida, right? And that's where I am at. I can attest to this, that there are a lot of snakes here. Okay. So this guy's out and he's like in the middle of the Everglades and he's searching for a certain species of snake that he wants to get. And when he's out there, he comes across an abandoned NASA site, right? And within some of the realms of or whatever's left of this NASA site, he finds and he come across multiple ritual sites that were at this location, right? Um, who knows if it's just people coming in and doing rituals there, but I find that interesting too. I
Yeah.
mean, is NASA actually going out and doing maybe some of these things? Who knows?
Well, that's the
Is the
Cape Canaveral area, I
I
think is
think
where
is
that
that where
is.
okay.
Well, they have if it's a I think it was a facility connected to that facility in some way, but I know that NASA has Cape Canaveral
Yeah,
where it's one of their main locations, and yeah, I've heard crazy stories coming out of that place too with, like, Men in Black and that sort of thing, like, there was a guy who I was listening to talk he was a fisherman who lived in the area, and he would fish right up in the waters there next to NASA's facility, and he said he got escorted out a couple times by not military, not police, but unidentified men in black. Just
wow.
a fun little story. But back to the this whole ritualistic thing. Like, I think there's smoke here because there's fire. I don't want to be redundant with that, but I think that that's what's happening. And one of the things, it's like, I don't know how this gets past the PR team at CERN, but like, if you do not want people to know or to accuse you of being occultists, you don't do occult rituals in the public like the Goddard Tunnel opening
Right,
ceremony. I guess that's what it's called, right? The Goddard opening ceremony. Anybody can look that up too, but that was very clearly an occult ritual. Like, people think that the Super Bowl or the superb owl, right? People think that's a ritual. Sure, but this is a ritual. This was
right,
front and center occultic. And, it's the people at CERN who put that on. They were the ones dancing around in the demonic goat man costume and simulating sex and all this stuff. Like, there were 9 miners who died because that whole thing was like a
right.
tunnel they built in through the Alps. So they had to do a lot of digging. And there were 9 guys who passed away, and they have those 9 gentlemen represented in this ritual ceremony, but it's very strange. It's almost like they were offered up as a sacrifice. That's the way it's presented.
Yeah, dude, you're not far off
So
when you're saying that.
what are they doing, man? Like, that's why I think there's something to this. It's
I
just
do
too
too.
much. It's too much.
I do too, man. I think they're illustrating it in a few ways to be obvious to us,
Mhm.
or anyone that really does some of the work to look into some of this stuff, because it's not really on front page news, the things that we're getting into. Um, but yeah, I mean, CERN is trying to open a doorway to allow that other world into this one. I don't think it's so much fascination about us going there. I think they want it to come here. Whatever it is, whatever they imagine they want to get in contact with, they're gonna run into it. I think so. Because on a quantum level, I think that their thoughts and their mindset has a has a big part to do with all of this. I think that how you think is how some of these things are going to present themselves. The entities is what I'm talking about. I think that they know how you think, they know your condition, your behavior, and it gets even deeper down that rabbit hole, but, um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I mean, yeah, I think we've touched on some things today that are really happening. When it gets to some of this kind of woo woo stuff, this more extreme thought, maybe some of the stuff that Anthony Patch puts out. Um, no offense to him at all. Like I'm glad somebody's out there doing that research.
Mhm.
Whether all that's true or not, I don't know. What I'm trying to do with this show is find connections, gather research, and present that research. Find some connections in the meantime, and present those connections to people. And you guys, the listeners, you guys can decide what you think about all this. I'm just kind of giving you a presentation or a data, to use that word, I guess, if you will. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to back off a little bit in terms of this is what I think. This is what it is. This is exactly what they're doing. I'm trying to. Hopefully, I didn't come across that way today with this episode. Um, because this, I mean, I know how weird this gets. I know that some people probably aren't ready for some of this, but this is just my intentions are to take the information and just hand it over and let you guys decide. So in doing so, I'm giving a lot of details so you can make informed decisions. And I guess all that goes without saying, but I'm just trying to be a little bit more, I don't know, trying to present things a little differently. But I do think we've stumbled across some truths tonight. That being said, and I think them just this whole idea about the locations being picked and all that. I
Yeah, I
do
like
think there's
that.
something to that. And I mean, even something that comes to mind to maybe drive that point home is we talked about London earlier, and London did form around the Temple of Mithras. That was there before
Mhm.
Londinium is what it was called. It was an ancient city.
That's wild, man.
Yeah, Romans came in, and the Roman city dates back to 43 to 50 AD, and but before that was the temple to Mithras that goes back to 240 AD. So
Mhm.
for 200 years, there was a temple there before the city really started to form out. And when they were digging, this is in recent times, they were digging and they were doing some construction in London. They were going to build a new office building down there, downtown. This is in the financial district. This is the hub of finance for Europe. And they found the ruins of this temple to Mithra. And
Wow.
pagan temple predates London. They find it. Uh, guess who swoops in and buys the real estate? Michael Bloomberg. He not only
Wow.
buys the real estate, they scratch the plans for whatever they want to put there. Bloomberg decides to make that his headquarters. So they know about this stuff. They
Oh,
use
100%.
stuff. He was the mayor. He's like an elite of an elite, right? He's a like he was on the Forbes like most richest men
Oh, wow.
list for a while.
Yeah.
He was the mayor of New York City for a while. Like this is one of the when we say elites, this is one of the people we're talking about.
Right.
These are the Bilderberg people that have those type of meetings. And he wanted access to this sacred pagan site 100% in the heart of London's banking section. Money magic. This is where they pull that on everybody. The financial stuff, the monetary stuff. So the more layers you peel off the wallpaper, the more you start to see that there's really something there, I think.
Yeah, the old world doesn't really go too far away,
Yeah.
the old world is still pretty much existent in our new world
Mhm.
today, man. Yeah. Yeah, CERN was a fun one, man. Thank you so
Yeah, bro.
much.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Appreciate the hang as always, man.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Love bouncing stuff off of you. Love hearing your research. It's always great. So again, man, thank you so much for coming on and tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, again, I love the opportunities to come onto the show, man. And it's like what you said. We're presenting information. You folks listening, y'all decide. Yeah. Again, at the end of the day, it's all information, and there's
Right.
so much information. Um, it's hard to get it out there, but that's why we do these shows, man. So, but thank you, man. Yeah, folks, anyone, if you want to find what it is I do, the show and everything, it's the Biblical Hitmen. You can check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and audio platforms. But yeah, thank you again, brother. This was fun.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
excited for the more coming in the future.
Yeah, bro. Always, of course. And yeah, like just to one more thing on to what you just said. Yeah, this is just we're trying to present information, and my whole spiel about that a minute ago was because we're coming up on a new year, and I'm trying to think about how to better present information to you guys and how to make this show better, and to, if I have to, uh, eliminate some of my biases so that we can learn together, have a good time together, and just so this thing can flourish. That's my goal, and that's why I went down that spiel. Um, Thanks for mentioning it, Stephen, and for picking
Love
up
it,
on
man.
that, brother. And yeah, we'll have Stephen's links down below. Just go check him out. Go give him a follow. Go give him a like. And as always, break the mold, conquer the realm. And thanks for listening.